Sawadee and good afternoon once again. So today is Thursday, April the 30th, 2020. And as usual, we will be providing with you the English language summary of the daily press briefing of the Center for COVID Situation Administration, or CCSA. And of course, in these couple of days in Bangkok and perhaps around the country, it's been raining in some areas, so please do keep dry and keep healthy. The first issue is about the meeting that the Prime Minister had this morning with various high-ranking executives in CCSA. And that meeting, of course, stressed on the various measures which the government is gradually relaxing as much as possible. And of course, pending the implementation and pending the cooperation from the general public, more measures would be relaxed in due course in order to bring back life to normal, businesses to more normal, and to move forward Thailand. Of course, the Prime Minister is aware of the various challenges to businesses, be they business owners, be they the consumers, and of course, he encourages everybody to give their social responsibility and efforts in this regard. So on the announcement of extending certain existing regulations, many have expressed concerns regarding whether the regulations and orders put in place earlier this month would expire today, April the 30th. So the CCSA has, as the spokesperson had mentioned, clarified that while the finalization process of restrictions are still ongoing, the Prime Minister issued a new regulation, which is Regulation number 4 under Section 9 of the Emergency Decree. And this new regulation extends the existing regulations concerning COVID until further notice. And this extends all existing regulations, both national and provincial, concerning COVID until further notice. So in short, these regulations across the country, the order will not expire today on the 30th of April. Again, all national and provincial measures, which include the ban on the sales of alcohol. So that will still be banned until further notice and announcement by the Prime Minister. And at the same time, of course, the Prime Minister and the CCSA encourages everybody to continue the working from home scheme to be at least around 50% of all work done from home. On the meeting that the Prime Minister had with the various high-level executives of the government and the CCSA, the spokesperson facilitated just now in the press briefing an important discussion among the relevant agencies. So that included the advisor to the CCSA, the secretary of the CCSA, the permanent secretaries of Interior and Public Health, the Secretary General of the National Security Council, the Secretary General of the National Economic and Social Development Board, as well as the President of the Thai Chamber of Commerce. So these executives got together to discuss and announce certain measures of the government regarding the resumption of business operations. If you recall that yesterday the spokesperson and myself also outlined the various principles, the groups of businesses that would be reopening in terms of the flexible measures. So the spokesperson outlined the general principles and the set standards for nationwide practices. And while the provincial administration and the Bangkok Metropolitan Authority will decide on the specific detail and elaborate on the implementation of each area. So I start off with the general principles announced just now with the spokesperson's presentation. The general principles for all businesses, when they become reopened, no matter which category they are, is set already. So this is sort of like the general principles, มาตรฐานกลาง the bottom line for businesses when the measures ease up. The provincial measures can be more stringent than these general principles, but the provincial measures cannot be lighter or lax compared to these general principles. So in provinces, it might be a more rigid measure. So these general principles for businesses when they are open is first, they would have to, number one, always clean and sanitize all surfaces and venues of public activities prior to use. Number two, participants and customers are required to wear masks. Participants meaning of activities like sports activities, and customers like of restaurants. The third is wash hands often with antibacterial soap and alcohol. The fourth is at least 1 meter's distance. And I repeat, at least 1 meter's social distance must be maintained between persons in accordance with physical distancing. Number five is maximum number of persons in each venue must be regulated to avoid congestion, and the time for each activity kept to a minimum to reduce exposure. And six, tracking applications and locations of record and report programs may be used as appropriate. So it's important that all businesses, when they are reopened, to follow these general principles strictly to control COVID and be in accordance with the public health guidelines. And for the interest of implementation, the business and activities are divided into 4 categories, which we recapped yesterday as well. These are based on their risk factors and essential value to consumers in society. The 4 categories first are the white group, green group, yellow group, and red group. So of course, obviously the red group is the high risk, non-essential services, and we're not there yet to reopen. The white group is the low risk, essential services to both people's livelihood and the economy. So I'll elaborate first on the white group of businesses and venues, because for each category, perhaps we can see it clearer if we explain it as moving 25% each time. So the first stage might be 25%, and then when the measures are implemented and we assess the situation, we move on the next 25%, and then the next, and then the last 25% when everything is in place in terms of the regulations. So we're moving off with the first 25%, and of course each 14 days we would have an evaluation or assessment. So the first category, white group, this consists of business and venues in 6 areas, and I'll go through that quickly. But it's important that we start with this group for you to know, because the CCSA has announced that the white group of businesses can start and resume operations on the 3rd of May. And I repeat, on the 3rd of May, so in around 3 days' time. And this will be evaluated every 14 days, whether to adjust the measures based on the prevailing circumstances. So the white group of businesses can reopen on the 3rd of May, and they have to abide by the general principles of operation that I just mentioned. The white group of businesses include 6 kinds of businesses. The first are markets, meaning markets selling fresh food, flea markets, floating markets, community markets, walking streets, street side vendors and stalls. They can open because they are in the white group. They can open on the 3rd of May. But they have to, of course, follow the general principles as mentioned for operation. The second group is restaurant. The restaurant group, restaurants, cafes, dessert joints, convenience stores, mom and pop shops, mobile phone markets, IT shops, community good stores, small local stores. So the restaurant group, the second group, just to be clear, it has to have be outside the malls and community malls. The third group, which I mentioned in advance just now, pardon me, the third group are the retail shops, which is supermarkets, convenience stores, IT shops, small local stores. That's the third group. So markets, restaurants, retail shops, the first 3 groups. The fourth to the 6th group is firstly recreation. The fourth is recreation areas such as public parks wherein certain activities are allowed, especially the non-intensive exercises and outdoor sports, non-team, non-competitive, that would require large gathering. That is not allowed. Some examples are like tennis, that's allowed if it's non-team, non-competitive, shooting, golf, and the rest. The 5th group is salons and barber shops, allowed to Activities allowed are to wash, cut, and dry and style. And the sixth is pet grooming shops and pet nurseries. So these are the 6 groups. I'd like to move on to some images for you, a change of the type of images we show each day. For today, some heartwarming stories and images of foreigners actually stranded in Thailand. Both in Thailand, we are aware of the need of foreigners stranded in Thailand and those outside Thailand needing to return. So we have some images for you on screen today. The first is an image from PP Island, where we have some tourists on that island in Krabi province having access to personal hygiene supplies, medical screening, and assisted by locals. So these images are from PP Island. And we also have another set of images of a Russian tourist living in Wat Mai Pattararam in Surat Thani province. And thank you, this picture is credit to the Bangkok Post. He takes refuge at a temple. Here's another image with credit to Khao Sot newspaper. He worked to help support the monks and caring for the premises. So these are some images of tourists still stranded in Thailand but receiving assistance. Of course, these are the young backpacker type of tourists, and we are aware that there are other types of tourists, foreign tourists in different situations. So we thank all foreign tourists still in Thailand for their cooperation and respecting the rules and regulations and keeping in mind public health and safety. You are also a part of Team Thailand, which makes disease control in the country possible. The good news is that we have around 61 provinces now that have not have active cases in the past 14 days. 61 provinces, that is around 79% of the total provinces in Thailand. But of course, we also up the scale to count the provinces that have no infection in 28 days. However, the provinces are still on high alert, and we seek for your cooperation. On general situation, just briefly, we have new confirmed cases numbering 7, and these were found from active case findings and also from the state quarantines. Total accumulated 2,954, and of this number, 90% have recovered. 90% of that is 2,687. A good percentage have recovered. Fatalities, 0 fatalities. For some observations, the spokesperson mentioned about the opening up of a laboratory in Krabi province that can perform real-time RT-PCR testing, as well as having a pre-PCR extraction room. And the real-time PCR testing can produce results in 4 hours, and this is certified by the Medical Science Center in Thailand. The active case finding of migrant workers is also being performed to reduce the risk of migrant worker communities, those in congested areas, such as in Samut Sakhon province. And they're also announcing of measures to prevent the spread for the migrant workers to understand. Yes, on screen you have an English language slide on the strict measures being implemented. And of course, the staff and volunteers have also been providing equipment and supplies to hospitals in Samut Sakhon, where there is a large concentration of foreign migrant workers in Thailand. Curfew. Moving to curfew, we have around 448 curfew violations leaving residences. Also a small number of violations in terms of gatherings. So reminding everyone again to please abide by the curfew restrictions. And of course, if you find any potential violations, please report this to the authorities. On repatriation flights, today we have 2 flights from Sri Lanka and the Maldives, as well as India, which is from Chennai and Bangalore. The details you can see on the slide. For tomorrow, we have from Singapore and Nepal. To date, Thailand has repatriated a total of 1,369 nationals from 22 countries. And we will continue so. For activities of the embassies and consulates, we have some images for you today. The Thai embassy in Copenhagen, Denmark, holding a press conference, teleconference with Thai students in Denmark to provide support and input and advice to improve the situation while they are there. And we also have images of the consul general in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, who remains committed to assisting Muslim Thai Muslims in Mecca during the holy month of Ramadan. And of course, our heart goes out to the Thai citizens living abroad and for them to stay healthy and strong. So just to recap, I mentioned about the Prime Minister's meeting as well as the announcement of the spokesperson on the white group of businesses, which can be reopened on the 3rd of May. And there are 6 types of businesses. And the general restrictions have to be applied very strictly. If we can do this well, other groups of businesses will be allowed to open as long as they abide by the various measures announced. So for general advice, just to remind that today is the 30th of April. Just to remind that the curfew and the inbound flights ban is still remaining. The curfew hours still remain. The inbound flights restricted for another month until the end of May. And while we are opening some businesses, as mentioned, we remind you, of course, to be wary, be alert, be cautious of the second wave of spread. It's still a looming threat, and that the new normal is still very much relevant. If we return to our normal lifestyles but forego the preventative measures, the risk will spike up again, and the risk is still very high. Of course, we ask you to observe physical distancing. Please note the slide that we have on screen from the World Health Organization, and also take maximum precaution of your health, wearing masks all the time. So just some food for thought. It's important to know your precaution measures, what you are doing. By staying home, you are saving lives and curbing the spread of COVID. And we're very grateful for your sacrifice and for your cooperation. Also note that you are not alone. This is a shared experience. However, this is a temporary experience. So as we are moving slowly to open up businesses and have life return to normal, we look at the idea of slow and steady. We're moving on, but we remain cautious and healthy. Slow and steady, moving on, cautious and healthy. เราก็จะค่อยๆทยอยเปิดธุรกิจใช่ไหมครับค่อยๆทยอยผ่อนคลายมาตรการบางประเภทนะครับก็ขอให้ทุกท่านใจเย็นๆอย่างที่ท่านโฆษกได้พูดนะครับอาจจะดูว่าเราค่อยๆเป็นค่อยๆไปแต่ว่าเราก็ดำเนินการด้วยความมั่นใจแล้วก็เพื่อความมั่นคงนะครับก็อย่างที่นิทานกระต่ายกับเต่าก็บอกว่านะครับก็ทุกคนก็ทราบกันดีส่วนใหญ่แล้วเต่าก็จะชนะในที่สุดนะครับ Thank you very much for your attention. Have a good afternoon. สวัสดีครับ